I'm sitting right here at the gun range to let you know that we're all targets right now. We're in the crosshairs of technology, economic change, and inflation. Now, inflation is economic change. It's the driver of economic change. But inflation also is the blatant disregard of government agencies printing more money than we can tolerate, borrowing against our futures, and ultimately putting us in a situation where it's dangerous. Very often, these economic situation causes civil unrest. It causes protests and issues. And then the government comes along and produces laws that further tighten the control on individuals. I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations. Now, again, I'm sitting here on the gun range because you are a target, especially if you're making over a certain amount of money. If you're making $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year, which, by the way, is middle class now, and with average wages at $49,000 a year, people are suffering. But especially those who are making high incomes, your head is on the chopping block. You're in the crosshairs for layoff, for automating your job, for moving to artificial intelligence. Now, a lot of companies have said they've gone to artificial intelligence to lower their costs, and it's working for them. But here's the secret. Artificial intelligence is the excuse they're using. In actuality, they have the same problems that we have when it comes to uncontrolled government spending, tariffs, other types of issues such as regulations that limit the free market, that are actually making it harder for small businesses to start, that are making it harder for businesses to operate. Did you know that pretty much every state in the United States has some sort of privacy policy? And some of the privacy policies are more strict than others. And then there's also a United States privacy policy, a New Zealand privacy policy, UK privacy policies that they have to comply to, and it costs tens of millions of dollars a year to comply to these things. Companies don't pay their own bills. Now, what do I mean by that? If it costs the company $10 million a year to do something, they pass that cost along to their customers. If a country has to pay a tariff in order to send goods and services to the United States, that country doesn't pay the tariff. That manufacturer doesn't pay the tariff. They pass the costs along to the consumers. And so as consumer prices are getting higher and higher, like the 1920s and the 1930s, it's stretching people's budgets more and more. Now, the way I address it is, and you might have known, I come to you as a farmer. I've started a small farm that we use regenerative and natural farming methods in order to grow food. I got plenty of food. I've got goat meat, duck meat, chicken meat, pig meat. I got beef from down the street. I'm doing the local economy thing. I'm also doing what's called intentional thrift. And so you'll see I'm coming to you wearing clothing that you might have seen in a video 15 years ago. I don't typically shop much anyway. I did when I wore suits and ties all the time, but I'm wearing 100% cotton t-shirt, and it's got a hole in it now, and I'm mending clothes, and after COVID, and after the medical issues that I had, and after the divorce I had, and after having to shut down the business one time in the city because the city was threatening to sue me after trying to blackmail me and extort money from me, and then after having trouble selling the house because the city kept putting property notices up and taking down my for sale sign, they were threatening to sue me again because I got a big mouth. Long story short, you're in the crosshairs too. So if you have a high income, companies are looking to lay you off. They're going to use the excuse of AI. And if you think it's AI, you're not going to learn the value of that tool. The truth of it is the companies are overextended. Credit is tighter than ever before. I don't know if you've looked at the interest rates of credit cards, but they're 20 and 30%. And so if you've got debt, you've got problems. I've got debt. I come to you guys. I wouldn't come to you guys if everything worked out exactly the way it was planned. Now, what's amazing is I can help a client with something and they get tremendous results. And then it was something out of the blue comes and messes this system up. In my case, I was doing pretty well. So well that the city contacted me and said, for the amount of money you're earning, you can pay more in taxes. And I said, let me patch in my CPA. I'm not paying any more in taxes. And then I'm just sharing my experience because a lot of times when you're a top earner, everybody else wants a little bit of it. I was in the top 5% of incomes in the United States, which is not bragging because it's not really that much money. The point of it is, though, I was paying 60% in taxes. All right, even with the business, even with the trust, even with the real estate, 60% in taxes. And then COVID comes along and the government says you can't evict your tenants. Now, fortunately, I had really good tenants, so I didn't have to evict them. But if I did, that kind of sucks too. And then there were a lot of other issues. So again, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying you can do everything right. Maybe you're experiencing it right now. You save money for retirement. You've been loyal to the company you're working for. You followed instructions and did what they said to do. You sometimes even cut corners. I've been in situations where the company is not, I don't want to say legitimately breaking the law because it's illegitimate to be breaking laws, but it wasn't even unjust law. They just didn't feel like following the law because they were making so much damn money. And I'm in risk management, and our team said, hey, look, you can't be doing this stuff. And then we ended up whistleblowing, and that was another issue too that can cause short-term employment. But again, what was I getting to? If you're a high-income professional, your head's on the chopping block because dropping 10 people at $100,000 a year is $1 million in savings. If you drop 10 people that are making minimum wage, it doesn't matter. And with AI, you can get minimum wage people to get results. I wrote a program called Staffing Arbitrage back in 2000. I've updated the program as I work with clients about it. But Staffing Arbitrage allowed us to hire overseas individuals and people all across rural communities in order to do high value work. Now, they weren't just answering phones. They're writing code. They're doing audit work. They're sales and marketing work. And I was able to hire people at $5 and $10 an hour. By the way, they can't do that anymore. They're $20 and $30 an hour. But I was able to hire people in Ukraine to do software development, hire people in Brazil, hire people in Ireland, hire people in Iowa. And they were able to do work at a fifth of what it was costing to hire somebody in the US. Now, again, I know what you're thinking about that. Oh, you're outsourcing jobs, whatever. It's the duty of a business to figure out ways to reduce costs. And that's why I do a lot of business-to-business work. My clients are typically subject matter experts. They're typically executives, entrepreneurs, and they understand that if you can do the same work or an 80% quality of the same work for half the price, then you're not serving your stakeholders or your customers by doing it for twice the price. And so you get into a situation where you can hire somebody at a lower wage who can maybe do the job 60%. And then you can hire AI at pennies on the dollar to do the other 20%. And now you got them up to 80%. But with the right design, and this is what I've helped clients with lately, with the right design, you can get that 50% person who just basically is a warm body that shows up, and you can get AI to do the 100%, and you can get that other person to push the right buttons. Now, that's not going to work forever. Sometimes the subject matter experts have been letting me know that AI just makes the work take twice as long. And again, there's this whole dynamic. The companies bought the AI. They want you to use the AI. It takes twice as long to do the work. They have half the people they had before. And so the work takes even longer because of that. And again, this whole thing's going to crash. That's why I'm saying that you're in the crosshairs of destruction in more ways than one, but there is something you can do about it. Again, my journey isn't necessarily your journey. For some of my clients, they have 5 or 10 people in an office, and we can realign those people in order to get new revenue, better customer retention, referrals, more profitable growth in the business by the right kind of customers. In my case, it's intentional thrift. In my case, it's wearing basic clothes. Well, I still have suits and ties, but if I don't have to wear them, I don't have to dry clean them. But ultimately, I find that when I'm doing my gardening, when I'm doing my hiking in the woods, when I'm out and about, I'm getting dirty anyway. So I might as well just wear what I'd wear to the gym. Again, a t-shirt. I'm wearing some baggy pants. I got my muck boots on, and I'm out here in the woods getting some exercise. Now, it's starting to get dark. I'm going to wrap this all up here, but understand, just because you're in the crosshairs for increased taxes, City of Martinsville was $5 million short on their budget, and they said, well, we're just going to send the bill to the citizens. Same thing happens with the United States. They're in debt. They got a massive deficit. They're just going to increase taxes. When it comes to inflation, nobody voted on inflation, but the government is printing checks to go to war. Again, something's going to break. How do you get out of the crosshairs? Well, first off, you have a plan. I have a program called reverse bad government. It's about my experiences with political action committees, with organizing individuals, with building coalitions. Now, I have in past life, as a business development professional, bought politicians before. Again, I've talked about it in programs. It's kind of hard to believe, but easy to understand when you see the conflicts and the conspiracy and stuff that's going on today, as well as the fraud. And by the way, this fraud may not impact you directly, but it's costing you in tax dollars. And so I made choices, intentional thrift. I've had some health issues, so I made choices about my health and how I live. And so, by the way, I'm going to camp out here in the woods every so often, not just when it warms up, not just to get fresh air, so I can bring my goats, and my goats can hang out here in the woods and eat stuff, and then I eat the goats. I'm not going to eat them today, but I'll eat them. There's a couple goats in the freezer. Again, that's me. And a lot of my clients have sold everything they've got and bought small farms or homesteads to do the reset. Now, to be really fair, a lot of them, their kids have been in college for 2 years, and they've decided that they don't want the kids to move back home. And so by downsizing, the kids can visit, but they can't move back in. And in another case, their kid just graduated high school, so they bought a house that had a separate, it's an apartment over the garage. And so if the kid chooses to move back in, the kid's got their own home. Actually, multi-generational farms is a big thing right now for affluent people because it lowers your costs and increases the amount of local labor. But in my case, for example, I'm choosing to buy all my food from at least 5 miles away. I still go to Kroger every so often and buy things, but most of the time I buy it from the market down the street. I buy it direct from a local farmer. I grow it myself. That's just my choice. Yours could be completely different. I've got clients who are downsizing to have like 2 small apartments, one in each city that they work in, so that their wife can come along and live in the city where they're working, and they have the 2 apartments cost about 2/3 of what they were spending on one house, and it allows them not to have any hotel expenses when the husband's out working, and then the wife has a professional position where she works remote. So it doesn't really matter what city she's in, but when he's assigned to Chicago or he's assigned to Washington, he can go, be in the city where he needs to be. Now, again, they're studio apartments. They're not lavish apartments, even though they can afford more, but because they want to bank that money. With inflation, typically your stock investments will do pretty good. With inflation, having a lot of extra stuff that you're having to maintain, it increases your costs. And so they have pretty much what would be considered like an efficiency. Near work, transportation costs are very low. They can get from the airport to their apartment pretty cheap. And then because they take a taxi or an Uber. And then once they're at their apartment, they can pretty much walk anywhere they want to go. And again, what lifestyle you choose, it depends on your situation. A lot of times when I work with clients on lifestyle design, we might look at their income and say, okay, well, if you were, you can still work your W-2 job, but if you're doing some consulting work on the side, you can get some tax benefits from that. If you shift to a different house or you change the configuration of your house. Like I had a conference room and an office in the house. So the conference room is a separate place. But about 25% of my house, again, this is not tax advice, but about 25% of my house was the deduction. And then I had staff that were working for my real estate company, and they were also doing scheduling and other things that benefited me as a professional so that I could focus 100% of my time on client work, and I was able to take on pretty high client load. Now, again, when you have a heart problem and can't even walk up and down the steps, some of that falls back. And then, of course, we had COVID and other stuff, and it's been pretty tough on a lot of folks. So if you want to share your story privately with me, you want to visit www.insidestrategicrelations.com. Go to the contact page. You can share privately. If you want to share with the group here, just put it in the comments below. You'll find that a lot of people can relate to the challenges you're seeing. Now, you don't need to talk about your challenges. Maybe you're seeing challenges with your employees, with your vendors. A lot of bookkeepers have quit, for example, because the regulations were so high. Again, if you're making good money, there's a target on your back. They're talking about taxing the rich, but when you look at the top 5% of earners, it's only like $100,000 or $200,000 a year, and there's some geographic conditions. But you only need to make $55,000 a year to be in the top 1% of earning for the planet. Okay. Now I wasn't, got some sinus stuff going on here. It's starting to be some bugs around me. Anyway, I wasn't in the top 5% for, so it's a logarithmic curve. All right, so there's a lot of people down here in the curve, and then there's very few people up here on the top. And so when they say they're going to tax the rich, if you're making more than $100,000 a year, you are the rich. When Obama was talking about taxing the rich, it was only $250,000 a year. And if you live in a major city, $250,000 a year can barely afford you an apartment in the city. Again, some of these cities have local taxes. In my region, I don't go eat food in the city of Martinsville because they got a 7% food tax. Actually, I try not to go very many grocery. I try to cook my own food because I'm trying to be healthier, and I've got some food interests that I have, like fermenting food and cooking. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, I talk about that at Prosperity Homestead, which is another newsletter I have. But again, if you don't think this is serious, that's okay, because those of us who are planning, again, we want to have a plan. I got a book about what do I want and how do I get it. It's about creating that plan. So you create that plan. Then you start executing on the plan. You do your bookkeeping so you can tell. I had some identity theft issues and lost 5 figures, like pretty high 5 figures. And I didn't get that money back. I'm sitting here on a gun range and I'm telling you that you're a target. If you're making good money, if you got money in the bank, if you've got investments, there are criminals out there, not just the politicians, but actual criminals out there trying to take your money. And so again, if you don't believe it's happening, that's fine. It's fine. But the rest of us are going to have some kind of bookkeeping going on, some kind of budget going on. We're going to have some kind of observation and building of relationships so that we know if there's a problem. Like the way my bank accounts are set up, if there's transactions I don't recognize, I know the people at the bank I talk to. And so whether it's a national bank, whether it's a local bank, you need to know who to call if you see something doesn't look right. And after you reconcile your statement at the end of the month, if something don't look right, do you know you only got 45 days to say something? There was a batch of transactions that came off one of my credit cards, and I called them at 60 days because I was behind on my reconciliation. Everything was going on. Things were a mess. Middle of a divorce, lawsuits, all this kind of mess. I'm 60 days. I call them up and I say, look, these transactions, I don't know what they are. They look fraudulent. And they say, well, Mr. Hitt, that's older than 45 days. There's nothing we can do about it. And so I had to eat, I think that was like $11,000. Again, learn from my $11,000 mistake. Have processes in place, routines. And now in order for me to keep up with all this stuff I got to do, I need to trim down in other areas. So I ended up selling everything. I live out on this property. I don't like live in the woods in the property. I'm here working, and then I got a proper place to stay. But it's not a 3,200 square foot house. And again, after the divorce, it was just me and a kid. So it's not like I needed 3,200 square feet and 5 bedrooms. And so I'm pretty comfortable with what we're doing right now. Now, I'm thinking about getting a van. I was thinking about getting a van and moving down by the river and travel a little bit. But with the goats and things, I don't travel very far. But again, that's just what I'm doing. What are you going to do to preserve your wealth, to build business relationships? Now, I say business relationships because the tax situation for business owners is much better. I was getting 60% taken out on my taxes, but the business started facing some losses. So I offset with the business losses and got down to an effective 22% tax rate, sometimes 30% tax rate, depending on what's going on. And again, it was frustrating to be giving up all that money to the government and then the government turned around and wasting it. Now, I did put money into political campaigns. I did do some things that I talk about in Turn Around a Bad Government. I advocated for my rights. By the way, you've got rights. Free speech, Second Amendment, Third Amendment, Fourth Amendment. You may not be aware, but those flock safety cameras are monitoring everything you do. It's a Fourth Amendment issue. And now they want to be able to fly drones over your house. They already scan your mail and make mappings of where your mail's coming from. You might think I'm paranoid. It's okay. It's okay. But it doesn't take much to find. Actually, the FEE, I don't know. There's a couple nonprofits that I follow, and they have reports on these things. And these are The privacy is dead in America. Cookies tracking what you're doing online. Even my videos trigger different kinds of ads I get. But anyway, you can do whatever you want. But if you want to develop a plan that protects your assets, increases your ability to lower taxes, improves your cash flow, if you want to simplify things and start a homestead or a small farm, if you want to learn more about the importance of community relationships, who cares if you have 1,000 followers or 10,000 followers or 100,000 followers? I'd rather have 150 really good friends or even 5 really good friends because of our health. If you want to learn more about sleep, you're in the right place. Ask your questions in the comments below or contact us at www.insidestrategicrelations.com. Got, I don't know, like 700 podcasts. There's something in there for any knowledge worker, executive, entrepreneur. And then, of course, if you contact our offices and ask questions, I'll go find the information for you, or somebody on the team will find information for you and send you a personal email to show you where this information is. Because the last point, again, why you're in the target, is if you don't think the right way, you'll notice that everything around you is nudging you in a direction to think the right way. Whatever that right way is, whatever that left way is, there's these information bubbles. And so you might not be able to find my content online because I talk about personal liberty, I talk about freedom, I talk about critical thinking and making decisions that improve yourself and your community. And that makes you dangerous to governments. That makes you dangerous to politicians. I had a city try to sue me. I did beneficial, this is a professional skill. I did beneficial financial tracing. And then all the things that I found, I reported to the Attorney General. And I basically reversed them because they were going after me thinking my yard was a nuisance and trying to take the house, which they had done with other properties. And as you can see in the news, they got a lot of problems going on. Anyway, I'm starting to get eaten up by mosquitoes out here. I just had a thought that I would make some sensational claim about the genetically modified mosquitoes, but that would reduce my credibility unless you saw the Bill Gates thing. But I'm sure these are just regular tiger mosquitoes because I'm out here in the middle of the woods and it's starting to get dark. And so now I'm going to walk back and I'll finish my little hike. But I want you to remember, you're in the target. They're looking for you, whether it's going to be layoff, automation replacement, whether it's going to be something. If you don't do anything, then it's going to turn out bad and you're going to have to dig into your retirement. And, I don't even want to talk about the millions of professionals that are unemployed. But we've got tools and resources here that'll help you get started. There's hundreds of free resources that I can match you up with. The big problem is they're hard to find. So if you stay this long in the video, visit www.insidestrategicrelations.com, go to the contact page, ask your questions there. I'm going to match you up with a free resource. Again, I just do this to build up my mailing list so that I can help go directly to you because I keep getting banned from social media. I keep getting shadow banned on the search engines. I keep having a lot of challenges out there because I'm trying to talk about the truth. I try to do the homework necessary. I also do commissioned research. So there are times I know about things before the general public knows about it. But long story short, that's where I want you to be. I want you to have the truth. I want you to know how things work. I want you to be able to think critically about the situation around you. I want you to have a plan so that you succeed no matter what goes on in the rest of the world. Again, I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations, where we help you transform business relationships into profits guaranteed. Not just financial profits, but the many forms of capital, including the things that money can't buy. Thanks for watching.